Welcome everybody to the webinar on the new 4473 form. We're very excited to have you guys join. Today we'll be having Ezra Weinstein, CEO of Coreware, doing the presentation and personally walking us through the new features and what it means from a workflow standpoint with your coreSTORE point of sale. For those who are joining who are not clients or not using coreSTORE yet, if you guys are interested in like what you see, we'll send some information out in the chat box below. But this is not a sales webinar, but this is a training webinar, just to be clear. So if you guys want a further demo or just want to talk more about coreSTORE point of sale, we'll have our contact information and we'll reach out to those. Outside of that, welcome Ezra. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you now.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining. I know time is a valuable commodity right now. Everyone's busy. Everyone's selling or looking for things to sell. That's the challenge of the times right now. So I'll keep this pretty short. Definitely ask questions. I think it's important for us to be holding this webinar because the most important thing, I'm assuming all of you are familiar with the new 4473. You know, it's basically the ATF is requiring you to start using the new 4473 beginning November 1st. Being an FFL, I would assume that you are all familiar with the changes. They seem significant, but they're really not. Basically the same information with a little bit of a different order. So the sections changed. Inevitably, that actually forced us to change the way our 4473 process works. And I think it's a change for the better. From my standpoint, it works better, it flows better, and I think it will be less work for you as the dealer. So we've had this in place for the last couple of weeks. We've been testing and we've got a small handful of beta testers using this. We will be rolling this out tonight. So what I'll do is, what I want to start with is to make sure to try to avoid any panic moments. All of you are using the system. You know that there's the bound book module, which is where the 4473s are maintained. The first thing, let's say we roll this out tomorrow. So the first thing that you're going to see is when you click this Manage 4473, you will not see any 4473s listed. If you take anything away from this webinar, please take away this panic moment that doesn't have to be a panic moment. The key is this will be empty because this is the new form 4473 2020. You won't have any because you haven't started using it. All you need to know is in the bound book, so I'll go right back to the bound book module. Under the menu, the ... menu, there's a Legacy Manage 4473 menu option. This is to me the most important part of this webinar. I want to try to avoid panic. Inevitably, I'm sure we'll get about 17 different help desk tickets in a panic asking, where did our 4473s go to? So they are right here. And if I click on that, you'll see all of the 4473s that are in here. That's where all the old 4473 forms live. They will always be there. You will always have access to the Legacy Manage 4473. In your kiosk mode, the kiosk for now until November 1st, it will work. And your old link to the kiosk, so if you click on the fill out 4473, in the new system, this actually will pull up the new 4473, and I'll show that to you in a second. We are keeping the legacy one. The legacy is, again, the old 4473, and that will be available till November 1st. Unless we hear otherwise, we plan to remove that menu option November 1st, because by law, you are not allowed to fill out a 4473 using the old form starting again on November 1st. So this menu option is only going to be alive for the next few days. So it's your choice. If you want to keep using the old 4473 till November 1st, you can, but legally you're allowed, and you have been allowed to use the new 4473 for a couple of months now. I think maybe as early as July. So again, if you see the word legacy, that just means it's the old original 4473. The first menu option, the Legacy Manage, you'll always be able to get to because that's where all of your older 4473s, before the time that you switch over. That's where they will live, and that's where they will always live. And then you'll have the newer ones that are sitting in the main screen here under just the Manage 4473. That's point number one. Point number two, with the new 4473s, so the key is there are two ways in coreSTORE to fill out a 4473. This is true in the old and the new. Basically, there are two ways that I guess the process can start. In theory, you could be selling an item, which of course you'll be using the sales screen, and we'll go through that. So if you're selling a firearm, you may start with that. There are times when you're not putting in a transaction through the sales screen, but you still need to fill out a 4473. So you can still do that. You can still start a new 4473 right from hitting the new button. Most of the time, you're going to be selling a firearm, and therefore it's really the sale process is what will start this 4473. And this is really the biggest change from previous, because what we're doing is we're actually starting the 4473 transaction after that sale is either suspended or the sale is completed. It all depends on your workflow. I think most of you probably suspend a transaction, which makes more sense because you want to run the next check. What we'll do is we'll go into the sales screen. This is just the typical point of sale screen. I'll go ahead and scan in a serial number. Okay. So I just scanned in a serial number. It happens to be a Remington 870. I'll go ahead and select a customer. Again, one of the things, if you haven't been reading our What's New, always try to read the What's New. There's always some goodies in there. So the What's New is right above here. Again, for any new users, or maybe if you're not a customer yet and you're just trying to learn more about coreSTORE, the What's New is really valuable because this is where we provide you with the latest and greatest updates. Always make sure to look to see if the What's New is blinking red, and that tells you, hey, there's something new that I should read up on. And make sure to always hit the read more, because typically there's a lot of different updates and news, and I promise none of this is irrelevant. I mean, there may be one or two issues, if you don't use work orders, maybe an update on a work order doesn't really matter to you, but you can skip those because we have headings on each little topic. One of the things I just want to point out is we streamlined the process of scanning a driver's license. So you can just click the scan driver's license to pull a customer up. If they already exist, it will pull the existing customer up. If they don't, it will let you add the customer right then and there. Saves a few mouse clicks and a couple of keystrokes. That's a nice little new feature that I'll point out. In this case, I don't have a scanner. I'm actually sitting in the car. I was traveling. I'm just on my notebook. But if you had a scanner, you could scan the driver's license. I'll choose this customer, who is me. I can go ahead and add a payment if I want to at this time, or I can just suspend this transaction. So let's go ahead and I'll just suspend the transaction. Here's the biggest change here is actually on the receipt. The new 4473 process starts out with a sale transaction. It's either a suspended transaction or a completed transaction. But in either case, what we're doing is we are actually creating a 4473 transaction right then and there. And you'll notice, besides the actual transaction barcode, there's actually a QR code. A QR code is just what they call a two-dimensional barcode. It's a square barcode, and it has data in it. The nice thing with the QR code is that we can take that QR code, and if our kiosk has a scanner on it, which I would recommend, the customer can retrieve their 4473 so they can start filling it out. Here's the biggest difference. In the previous system, your customer could start a 4473 without having the items specified to that customer. They could start it essentially at any time. We are extremely careful with the ATF rulings, and we are extremely careful with how we program our systems to make sure that you stay compliant. The way it's worded is that Section A must be filled out first. Section A of the 4473 is the firearm section. And this is how the system works. Your customer cannot initiate a 4473 until you initiate it. So basically, you initiate it. The easiest way is by simply completing or suspending a sale transaction. This is really nice. I think most of you know we recommend a great scanner that's right on Amazon. It's $99. You can put that scanner right on the kiosk. I assume most, if not all of you, have kiosks for customers to walk up and fill out their 4473s. So basically, you just put that scanner right on the kiosk. And the second step is, of course, the customer would be going over to fill out their 4473. So if we go back to the bound book, and we'll just imagine that we're going on the kiosk, I'll just do it from the menu. So this is what the kiosk looks like. The kiosk basically says, all right, if you have a QR code on the receipt, just scan it. Now, the nice thing is you can email the receipt to the customer so they can just use their smartphone, just like you're checking into a flight. You've got a QR code right on the boarding pass. Same thing. They can scan this. You can also type it in if you wanted to. So it's completely up to you in terms of how the process initiates. If you want your customer to initiate it, the easiest thing to do is to simply scan that QR code. You'll also notice, if I go to my managed 4473s, you'll notice that I've got a new 4473 that was created today, and here's my last name. The way we work it is I can also just type this in, which is basically the 4473 transaction number and the person's last name, and it has to be spelled correctly. At this point, to fill out the 4473, it's the same process. Your customer just fills out. I mean, there's no difference in terms of the actual process. There are, a couple of questions that might be a little different. The ATF has become maybe a little liberal in their process and have given us some extra options on gender. There are a few differences here and there, and they fill out the 4473. And again, at this point, you have access to the Section A, which of course has my Remington 870, and if for some reason you need to go in and change anything, you can. If you need to add a firearm, you can. This new 4473 only allows 3 firearms on the primary form, and then there's a continuation form. So our continuation form, that's already handled by the system. So it will print out the continuation form for you. In terms of after the customer fills out their Section B, you can actually go in and fill out the Section C. So I'll just go to one that already has information filled out. And again, the Section C is where the NICS check occurs. For those of you new to the system, we do have a Chrome extension for doing the NICS check. Everyone needs, this is really important. There's another important point. Make sure that you download the latest plugin and follow the installation instructions for the latest NICS extension. Your current extension won't work. And if you need any help with installation, definitely reach out to support. That's what we're there for, is to help you through the little trickier parts. Basically, you'll download the Chrome extension by clicking this option, and you can follow the installation instructions here. If you're installing it on a machine that already has the extension, make sure to uninstall the extension and then reinstall the extension. I don't think the installation will do that for you. Ken, I know you're with us. Ken's our lead programmer for any of our ATF bound book programming. And just to confirm, Ken, on the extension, they do have to manually uninstall it first. Is that correct? Okay, Ken, just chime me a yes. So really important, and this is good for my support staff. I know some of my support staff is on the line. Make sure we uninstall the extension. Again, it's good to start doing this when we launch it. Again, I'm planning on launching it tonight to everyone, unless we hear anything else from our beta testers. But if we don't hear of any other issues, you will be seeing this tomorrow. Again, the current extension will work with the legacy form, but if you start using the new form, you have to install the new extension. Again, once the customer fills out their Section B, you'll just go through the normal process. If there's a delayed signature, you'll fill out Section D, and then, of course, Section E has your information. They just move things around. So you can just enter a 4473 if you want to go through the whole process just to test. You'll be able to see all of the changes. Again, I'm guessing most of you know the changes that have happened probably better than me. I don't need to waste your time on any of that. Basically, the rest of the process remains pretty much the same way it has been. The screens are slightly different, but other than that, you'll see again, our managed 4473, it's still works the same. You still have some actions. You can invalidate, you can archive, you can flag a 4473, you can show the summary of the 4473. You have all your searching capabilities. So all of that hasn't changed. The really big changes are for the kiosk. For those of you who have set up a kiosk, you have a shortcut that's going to that form to fill out the 4473. You want to change the shortcut so it goes to this website. You don't need to write this down because all you need to do is click the button and it will take you to show you what the shortcut is. And for those of you who are new, who've never set up a kiosk, setting up a kiosk is very easy. The word kiosk just means the customer has a computer that they're going to, and that computer can be a tablet, it can be a full-blown computer, it can be a Chromebook. So it's not any specialty hardware. All you need to do is make sure you have Chrome installed on that machine. You don't need the extension on that machine because you're not going to run a NICS check from a customer kiosk. Basically, you just need Chrome. You would do two things. You'd create a shortcut for this, filling out the form. Then you would also make sure to create an actual employee that basically has no access rights other than filling out the 4473. Let's see if we can just show you, because I don't have one in here. So I'll just create a new employee. I'll just show you how that's done in case some of you are new. I'll just call it kiosk. You can call it whatever you want. Just give it an email address because it's required. It won't be used. Really, all we need is to give it a username. And again, the password doesn't really matter because, again, this is going to be accessed by the public. You can make it as simple as you want. I'll just do it as kiosk 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, you scroll down. These are all the access rights for this particular employee. I'm going to leave everything as you do not have access to anything other than in bound book. I'm just going to go all the way down here and fill out 4473. It's the only option that'll give the user access to. So it's really easy to set up that kiosk user, and then I'll hit save and we're all set to go. And that creates our kiosk user. So all you need to do is now let them log in as kiosk and should be all set. Choose a location. Make sure you assign that kiosk. So if you have 2 locations or more, typically you'll want to, again, it doesn't totally matter. You can just create 1 kiosk user or you can create 1 for each location. Either or, if you're creating 1 for all locations, just make sure you check all locations. In the ATF ruling, the customer is obligated to fill out that information. I would need to see an actual ruling by the ATF. I go by what the ATF publishes. And according to the ATF ruling, a customer is obligated to fill out their own information. I don't even advise putting a scan. We don't even support scanning at the kiosk either. Because again, that's not how the law reads. And I would rather you guys don't get in trouble. In theory, we could carry something like that over if there's a driver's license in the sale transaction. I'd have to talk to Ken to see if his understanding would be that we could do that. And then, yes, what we could in theory do, since we're initiating the 4473 from the sale, we could in theory copy over, if it is a driver's license, we could fill out that ID information. So yeah, that's no different. You would just fill that out in section C. And right now, again, we're not feeding that information automatically. I don't think I don't think there's a place to put 2 different IDs on the 4473.
Yeah, I mean, the closest would be to provide, a photo of some supplemental documentation, if that would count. But I don't know if they would really need or use that. But
that's only if the ID doesn't show their current resident address. So that's what that's for. Yeah, excellent question. We have a couple of customers in that situation, and the answer is absolutely yes, because all you need to do is if you're not starting a 4473 from a sale, you can just click on new 4473. And at this point, you would just enter their last name. This is not part of the 4473. This is for our information, just so you know, but it's still required. And then you can put in the serial number. So I'll put in a serial number that I know is in the system. So basically I would enter the serial number here. Again, your serial numbers have to be in the bound book to use the 4473. And then basically I would just submit section A, and you'll see a new transaction just got created, 131. And then I could, again, go in and actually put in the customer information. Either you can turn your screen around if you don't have a kiosk set up, or you can go to the kiosk and they can fill out their 4473. Again, you would just give them this transaction number to type in with their last name. If we're in the 4473, I type in 131 with the last name of Weinstein, no space, and then they just fill out the 4473. So absolutely, you can totally use the system. If you haven't started with the rest of the point of sale, you can absolutely use the system to start tracking your bound book and your 4473s. Does the item have to be in the bound book in order for them to fill out Section A?
Yes.
It does. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Just to answer that question in a little more depth, maybe you're not ready to take your bound book live either, but that's okay. Let us at least import your current stock so your serial numbers are in there with all the data that needs to be filled out. And if we need to import again, we can always import that bound book again, but it does need to have valid serial numbers. It'll be live tonight. So if you join late or missed what I said at the start, by tomorrow, make sure to check your what's new. I'm planning to launch this out later tonight after kind of closing time. That way there's no interruption in your business today. But when you start coreSTORE tomorrow and you go to your bound book and you go to manage 4473, there'll be no 4473s. So I'm just repeating what I said at the beginning. Do not panic. You go back to bound book, hit the ... and your legacy manage 4473 menu option will show you all of your current 4473s that are in the old form. So make sure you take a note of that.
Also, I did want to mention one thing about the 3310s. You notice there's the sale alert that's on the bound book screen that Ed was showing. The 3310s will definitely be, modified for connecting to the new 4473s by the 1st. They may not be ready tonight, though, so don't do any 3310s for a day or two if you're going to be switching over. This is something that, due to the change in the sequence of events of things for the new 4473s, we are not locking out any of the sections. If one needs to be modified and re-signed, one can go back into Section B in this case and change the values and clear the signature and have them re-sign it and save that. And any kind of tracking for ATF purposes as far as changes and corrections are concerned, we're going to be doing under the hood. It is pre-populated with as much as we can put into it. It will include the FFL address and FFL ID and the transfer seller's name.
You'll see here, shows me, has my address. So all of that information is already there. So you just need to sign it.
The system already does that. If you're not able to get it work with yours, just put in a help desk ticket. You got to make sure you download the Nix plugin for Chrome in order to take that information and kind of populate over.
Yeah, and the information is right on the Manage 4473 screen. There's installation instructions that you can just jump to, and it tells you exactly how to install the extension. You can actually download the extension right from the screen as well. Just click the link below or to the side. It depends on your resolution.
That probably won't work with the tablet, with the plugin, I would think. Is that correct, Ezra?
Well, it depends what operating system the tablet's running, but if you're running Chrome, maybe you can guess at this. I know we neither of us have tried it.
There's already an answer on the chat. EVT answers Chrome extensions do not work on the tablets. You have to use a Chromebook tablet for it to work, like a Lenovo Duo tablet.
Yeah, so that's not a limitation by us. That's obviously a Google limitation. In Section C, you can specify a secondary document. So you can specify the primary document, whatever that might be, driver's license or whatever else it is. And then you can actually specify a name of a secondary document, and you can upload a photo of that secondary document.
Yeah, and if a Nix check is not required, then you could include that information in question 29 at the bottom, which would include the permit name and permit number and those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes, you can take payment in full. We used to have to do a penny workaround to be able to suspend a transaction. You don't have to do that anymore. So as soon as you scan the serial number, you can suspend the transaction, or you can still take a full payment. You can hit credit card, add payment, and then when you go to suspend, as soon as I hit special order, or whatever name of a suspended transaction type you want to give it, it will suspend the transaction with full payment. So you don't have to worry about the penny anymore.
So you're saying to special order?
Whatever you typically suspend it to, it will allow you to put in a full payment on any suspended transaction type. For those of you who are new to CoreSTORE, you can create your own suspended type. In the store configuration, you can set up your own. There are a couple of built-in ones: special order, work order. You don't want it to be an estimate. It's not an estimate because you want to commit the inventory. But you can create your own suspended types. No matter which suspended type I choose, it will let me take a full payment, and it will process the full payment. It will not complete the sale until you complete the sale. So basically, I'll take cash, for example. I'll just do it by cash because I don't have a credit card machine connected. So I'll remove the credit card payment and add cash, and then I'll go to suspend. And again, I'll just suspend it as a special order. Okay. And that will create the 4473 transaction. It will create this as a suspended transaction. In this case, again, it's a special order. And then I can go back very easily when they're done and they finish their 4473. I can just unsuspend the transaction, and I'll just pull up the last transaction, unsuspend it, and then I'll just complete the transaction. It's already paid for, so I can just complete the sale. So no payment necessary because they already paid for the transaction. The penny trick is no longer necessary, and it was a bit of a headache. If this webinar was useful and you want us to do more training webinars, give us some feedback. We're more than glad to hold these on a regular basis if it seems beneficial. We felt this was important just because it's a pretty big change, and we want to make sure to avoid too much confusion out there. If you can like us on the social media, we'd appreciate it. We'll definitely return the favor. We're trying to do a lot more on the different social medias because I know different people like different ways of seeing news. So we're trying to get better at keeping everyone up to date on what's happening. There's a few other announcements that will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I've got a couple of minutes just to let you know we will be releasing a low-end e-commerce solution. This is not meant to compete with AmmoReady. It's literally just a Wix competitor that has e-commerce. So if you do have a website, or maybe you don't have a website and you just want a web presence and you just want to show your local inventory, you're not interested in distributor feeds, that's coming very, very soon. We already have a couple of customers that are testing/using it. They'll be part of CoreSTORE. So again, there'll be different levels of licenses, but if you just want a web presence and you're paying the $99 a month, you'll have that built in. There's no extra cost, and you'll be able to feature up to 100 items. If you need to feature more items, it's $149 a month total, not in addition. You could feature up to 2,500 items, and then unlimited items will cost $199, which gives you unlimited registers, unlimited items, basically kind of the unlimited everything plan. But again, this is not competing with anything like our enterprise e-commerce, which will now be known as CoreForce. It's not competing with AmmoReady. It is specifically geared for customers who just need a web presence. They want to be able to sell online. They want to be able to show local inventory, and they don't want to be a part of the 2,500 other sites that all show the same distributor inventory that nobody's getting a whole lot of orders unless you're really working the site. Just to position it kind of fills in a gap. Truthfully, that gap, it's being filled for mostly non-firearm businesses that have asked us to, these days, especially with Corona, we can't sell a point of sale system without having a built-in e-commerce. It's practically impossible. So we're making it available to all of you just so it's there. You can also just use it as a secondary site. If you already have AmmoReady, but you still want maybe your own site and you need a little more control over it, you need to be able to modify the pages to your heart desire and do whatever you want to do, it's a good solution. So if you're interested, shoot us a note. We can definitely create a front end site for you to play with, and you can get a preview of that. We'll be officially announcing it within hopefully the next couple of weeks or sooner. Just a brief little highlight on what's coming. I want to say I just appreciate everyone joining in the afternoon. I know everyone's super busy, so we had a good attendance. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your input. Keep sending us questions. Keep sending us recommendations. Half of, I would say even 80% of everything that we do in the system is because someone asked for it. So literally, even this latest addition, not to allow transferring to the same location, that came from a customer request. The work order images came from a customer request. A lot of these, the payment processing ability to store a card on file now, if you're on CoreClear, that came from a customer. Everything that we do is from input from you. And sometimes, yeah, it might take us a while to do something. Sometimes we don't do it because it may be a request that maybe makes sense to you, but it wouldn't make sense to our customer base as a whole. But in general, I'd say 80 to 90% of the requests that come in, we listen and we do and we act. And that's what makes us different from our competitors. We don't sit there and focus on what we had yesterday. We focus on what we're doing tomorrow. And everything we do is to try to help you and help make your job easier. And quite frankly, help reduce the help desk tickets that come in. So I promise you, we don't program anything to make your lives hard because that makes our lives hard. So I can promise you that.
That's the goal. We try to make everyone's life a little bit easier here. Thank you, Ezra, for the presentation. That was the first time for me to actually see it, so I was very impressed with what we've got set up for the new 4473 form with coreSTORE. So if you are not currently a coreSTORE member and you're interested in subscribing, be sure to go to coreSTORE.info. And if you are already an active member of coreSTORE, we can't thank you enough for being part of our little family here at Coreware. We're super excited that you could join. We'll be sending out an email with the recording of this webinar, so that way you guys can do a training with your employees, or if you just need a refresher, you can watch it at your pace or at any time. We will be getting knowledge-based articles put in response to the new 4473. Thank you, everyone that did attend. We appreciate you coming, and we hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
Thank you, everyone.